Live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Everyone, I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now. As always, thank you for joining us. We are live here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom, and we cover a wide range of topics on this show. We live stream on Facebook, YouTube, our website, and our apps. This topic today, though, doesn't really need a whole lot of intro because if you're a Blazers fan, if you're from the Northwest, if you're an NBA fan, you know about the passing of Bill Walton and what an incredibly unique person Bill Walton was, what he meant to this city, what he meant to the region, what he meant to the NBA, and just even beyond that, because of what an incredible guy he was. And this segment today, we just want to talk about that a little bit. You know, if you're watching on social media, feel free to share your memories on there. And we've got a couple of people who are joining us here today. Coming up in just a little bit, we have a member of the Fox 12 Oregon news team, Paul Strunk, who's going to be sharing his time as a personal assistant for a little while for Bill Walton with some memorabilia. But before we do that, if you're a Blazers fan, you know the name Casey Holdahl because you've either read him, you've seen him, you've heard him talk all about the Blazers for a long time. You've been covering the Blazers and beyond that. Casey, first off, it's just really good to have you here on the show.
Absolutely, Greg. It's great to see you too. And you also kept out there that we used to be coworkers for the Portland Trail Blazers, Greg. So yeah, this is a little bit of a blast of the past for both of us. And I really appreciate you having me on. And it's great to see you as always.
It really is. Yeah, it's good to see you too. Yeah, I've worked for the Blazers for quite a while. If there's any Sportlandia fans out there, still, you know, this is where.
Shout out to Sportlandia, man.
Shout out to Sportlandia. That was a lot of fun. But you know, with Bill, you know, and just what he meant to this organization, to this city, to. You know, there's all of this stuff and all the feelings that everybody's having, but I wanted to just talk to you personally. I mean, you've been covering the Blazers for a long time. You've been part of the organization for a long time, and I'm sure you've had, you know, interactions with Bill Walton during that time. And I don't want to preface anything, just to ask you, you know, how does it feel? Do you have any special memories, I guess, to talk about with him?
Well, one, it is sad, and you know, Bill was such a singular personality in the world, let alone, you know, in the NBA and then for the Trailblazers as well. That, you know, like there's all like, it's almost hard to like parse out the memories because you got the memories of, I don't have memories of Bill the player because, you know, his time was a little before I was born, but just the notion of the 77 team and what that meant to the city. And then you have Bill, the NBA broadcaster, and then Bill, the college broadcaster, and then Bill, the guy who comes back to Portland and as an alumni and kind of really gives you a lot of his time after, you know, there was kind of I don't know if I'd say a rift, but just like there was, you know, the way his playing career ended in Portland, you know, he always felt bad about that. And when he came back in 2019 and really that was when he first really kind of came back into the fold with the organization. He was around, obviously his number was retired before that, but that was when he really kind of set aside kind of some of the things that he felt about kind of the way that it ended in Portland. And so really got a chance to get to know Bill a little bit after 2009. And kind of it's sad, but it's also a great memory for me is that, you know, when Maurice Lucas passed, you know, Bill transcribed his eulogy to me over the phone when we were preparing for the services for Mo Luke. And, you know, it's something that even now, like it really, like I feel really grateful that I got the opportunity to do that. And then, you know, spending time with Bill after, you know, he, you know, when Mo was sick, you know, Bill was not in great shape either, physically. And, you know, he had the surgery to kind of basically fuse his spine back together, which he said really saved his life. I mean, literally, he was talking about, you know, when he came back 2019 or 2009, he had a press conference where he said, you know, like I was afraid that I wasn't going to die because like I was stuck in my body and like I was in pain all the time. And I had this surgery and it finally like it released me, like it let me get back to the life. And I think that's one of the reasons why, you know, Bill was maybe so jovial was because, you know, he had gone through so much pain and, you know, after his playing days and then to have some relief, like it really seemed like it, you know, if you watch his broadcast as an NBA broadcaster and as a college broadcaster, like there's almost I don't know if he just got older or if it was more because of the way he felt, but like there's just a different, he was just a little more acerbic than he was as a college guy. And a college guy was all just about loving the game and loving the fans and everything about the idea of sport and the camaraderie and the community that it builds. And, you know, those are the things that I remember most about Bill. And just kind of one of the other things I remember most about him was just, and again, it kind of makes me sad, is that, he just felt so much guilt and regret about kind of like the way things ended in Portland, despite the fact that he delivered the only championship the city, or at least the Blazers have ever had. So, and going back and reading through some of the stuff I did with Bill back then, like it really, it makes me sad, but also I was glad to see some of the things I said to Bill too, because I was always really adamant, even younger in my career, maybe even feeling a little kind of squeamish around being around such a big, important personality, that even then I was like, Bill, you don't have anything to feel sorry about, man. Like you do so much for everybody here. Like if anyone knows any of you apology, it's us. So, those are kind of my first main take, with just like from my interpersonal connection with Bill. And, there were a lot of people in the organization that were a lot closer to Bill than I was. But that was one of the great things about Bill Walton too, is that he made you feel like you were so important and valued when he spoke to you and when he gave you time, and a guy who really seemed interested in not even just like learning about the world, but just being a citizen of the world, and wanting to have experiences with everybody. And, that's the thing I think I'll miss most about Bill, is just that he was so interested in whatever it is you were doing. And, that's pretty uncommon just for people in general, let alone for people of Bill's stature.
Right, somebody who was an NBA MVP, world champion, has, all of those accomplishments, but still to make, everybody that he was talking to feel that way. Unfortunately, I wasn't lucky enough to have an interaction with Bill, but just reading everybody's stories, and it's kind of like you, just makes you feel personal, and, that student of the world kind of mentality that he had, where just, always wanting to learn more. And speaking to your broadcasting comment, of him doing those broadcasts, I know some people would get annoyed with some of the things he would say. I thought they were really entertaining. It's like, this is something different, Yeah. This is somebody, they're their own personality, and you can tell just the joy of what he was doing. Like, he just really loved it, and he wanted to go off on his grand hyperbole about, whatever was happening there. I thought it was super entertaining, and I know a lot of people did too.
I completely agree. And I know that some people might have had issue with it too. I think, one, they maybe came to realize that, like, no, maybe I'm the one that's got the issue here. It's not so much Bill. And two, just that, like, you're watching the game, like, you can see what's happening, and, basketball is not an especially complicated game. Like, you can kind of tell what's going on out there, particularly at the college level, where he did so much of that great work with Dave Pasch. And it's like, why would I need someone to tell me exactly what's happening on the court at all times? Like, I'm watching it. If I'm listening to radio, sure, like, I get it. But like, I want some personality here. I want something else. I want it to be a little more fun. And I think that just in general, like, that's a good lesson from Bill Walton. It's just like, just have more fun doing the things that you're doing. And, Bill Walton is a guy too, where it's like, I'm Bill Walton. Like, I know that I'm not going to get fired. I'm just going to go out and have a great time. And like, I wish so many more people were like that. I mean, myself included, that like, sometimes it's just like, man, you just got to let the chips fall and go out there and do something that feels valuable to you, that you feel like it's going to have value to other people. And, and that's the thing. It's like, the great calls in sports history, like, they require an athlete to do something great in order for those things to happen. And that, fair enough. So many great calls that we saw after Bill passed, the people posting kind of some of his work, and they don't have anything to do with the game itself, or at least the actual, like, singular plays on the court. And it's like, that's just proof positive that it's like, people want that. They want guys to have more fun. In fact, there's sometimes where, like, and I don't know, it's from watching Bill as a younger man, but like, when I'm watching broadcasts now and they'll do like an ad read, and it'll be for kind of something dumb, and my assumption is always like, oh, they're gonna riff on that for like 30 minutes or like a 30-second, like, someone's gonna make a joke about this dumb ad read, because that's what Bill Walton would have done, and no one ever does it. And like, I'm always so surprised that no one's just like, has just like those little kind of one-off comments. And like, it's not a stuffy industry, but it's like, it's so rigid sometimes that like, I really feel like everyone could stand to loosen up a little bit. I feel like Kevin and Lamar, end of last year, did a great job with that. The games are what they are. They're going out there and having some fun, trying to give people something of value on the broadcast that's outside of the game. And I think that's great. And I completely agree, Greg. I love that style of broadcast. I wish there was someone that had the gravitas to pull it off like Bill did.
Right. I mean, it's so rare to have something. I mean, there is no other Bill Walton, but I mean, just anybody to have that, to be able to do that. Because as you mentioned, I can see there's a rebound. All right. that was a good pass. I can see that. Great to have that call too, but to have that personality on there, man, that's everything. And it's just what he even meant to the city. Going back to that, winning the championship here, MVP before my time as well, but still, looms large over this because that's the only championship the Blazers have had. That's our MVP. That's the person who got that. And even with all the great players coming since, he accomplished it. And even reading about all the things that he meant to the city, riding his bike to games, and the whole Grateful Dead tie-in, just all these tangents with him, but then getting back to the organization too, and kind of mending those fences, whatever that was that happened there, whatever he was, his feelings, organization's feelings, whatever. Coming back to that, so I know this is premature, and this, I don't want to go too far into this, but do you know if there are plans for honoring Bill? I would assume, coming up this season, or in some way, shape, or form from the Blazers, other than all these posts and everybody just the outpouring of support.
Yeah, I don't know anything specifically just yet. I'm sure that we'll be doing something. I would imagine it'll probably be all season long. You're exactly right. Like, Bill has such an important role in the community and with the franchise for not only what he did, but the way that he's conducted himself after his playing career. And again, and the way that he's embraced Portland. Like, Bill Walton coming back, a few years ago when we had that new red jersey, coming out, going on a bike ride with fans, like, find any other Hall of Famer who's coming back to his former team, particularly with a former team that it kind of ended on a sour note, and is giving that kind of time and is participating in that kind of way. Like, the amount of love and credibility that Bill Walton gave the Portland Trail Blazers is something that I'm sure that the team is going to make sure that we honor in the utmost way possible. I know that Senator Ron Wyden's already thrown out the idea of putting up a statue, and we don't have any of those, so I don't know if that's where the direction they'll go. I'm sure there's lots of discussions to be had, both inside the organization and probably with Bill's family as well, and probably with the NBA as well, about what the best way to honor one of the all-time greats in franchise history and NBA history and American history and world history. So TBD on that one. And also the fact that, it was a holiday weekend. I think, we're all kind of, we're doing our mourning, and we're also kind of catching up a little bit. And I'm sure that we'll have more to announce here in the not too distant future. But as of right now, I think we're all just kind of getting used to the idea. Exactly. Because the other thing too is that, Bill kind of kept that to himself. And a lot of times in an organization, like, you don't talk about it, but you'll kind of hear like, hey, someone's not doing so well. We might need to kind of start thinking about what we're going to do going forward. And as far as I know, that wasn't the case with Bill. I know that people have talked about how it was a prolonged illness, but at least as far as I know, I had never heard anything about it. So, and that's completely Bill's right. And I think that I would probably conduct myself the same way if I were in his shoes, because I'm sure that Bill don't want to be the guy with cancer. Like, he wanted to be Bill Walton living his life for as long as he's going to get to do it on this earth, and whatever's next for Bill, wherever he's at now, like, I'm sure he's having a great time, but he didn't want to, I'm guessing he probably didn't want that to be the focus that people had about him in kind of his last time. So to get back to your question, I'm sure we'll be doing something. I know that we're going to put a lot of work into it, but stay tuned for that one. Yeah, will do. Well, Casey, thank you. For joining us here just to talk about some of that. And we got to have you on again, too, for some more conversations, because there's a lot I'd love to, Greg. It's always nice to see you, too, Greg. Also, too, like, you look exactly the same as you did, like, 15 years ago. So, yeah. I mean, I got to say, you look the same as well. So, I mean, we're doing pretty good as far as that's concerned. Yeah. Maybe it's the lighting. We're both doing really good. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. Thank you so much, Greg. I really appreciate it. So good to see you. All right, man. Have a good one. Take care. And for everybody watching, too, we're going to continue on here. We're going to keep on talking about the Blazers. We've got joining us right now, as I mentioned, one of our coworkers here, Paul, who's going to be discussing the man of the hour here, Bill Walton. So let me get this set up here, Paul, as I'm going through. I'm just going to put up one thing there as we're doing this, and we'll get Paul in here, switching cameras live. If anybody ever wondered if we're live, this proves it right now, because I'm going to do that. All right, there we go. Paul. Hey, good to have you here on the show. For anybody who doesn't know, Paul is here working diligently behind the scenes for, how many years have you worked for Fox 12?
25, 26. I'm like
25, 26 years? Losing count of the years? Yeah. Well, Paul, you have some, I know, personal stories about Bill Walton that we want to talk about here on this, too.
Yeah. Well, I was born in 1974, so when he was drafted in 74, of course, I did not remember any of his games for Portland Trailblazers, but I remember
Right.
him playing for Boston and so forth. But I know, watching him on TV, watching his highlights of everything, amazing, amazing player. So I personally had this gravitation towards the motivation that he had towards his stuttering and his speaking ability later in the years.
Yeah.
So it's just, he inspired me a lot. So not only his personality, his basketball play, but it really, really touched me. So fast forward, November of 2022, I got hired as a freelancer to be a runner for ESPN for the PK80. It was the Phil Knight
Yeah.
Invitational. They brought in 16 teams. They were in the Moda Center and the Veterans Memorial Coliseum. And so nonetheless,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
so nonetheless, they had Bill Walton there. They had Calabro there, Billis, and Bernstein as their personalities. Two of them would be in the Moda Center, two of them in the Veterans Memorial Coliseum. So I was the runner, making sure they got snacks, they got drinks. Bill was, so I went, Mr. Walton, would you like anything? It's like, oh, call me Bill, you know.
Yeah.
And so I was like, Bill, what would you like? It's like, every quarter, I would like you to fill up this water bottle. Oh, go over to that jug over there by the team and fill it up with Gatorade. Yes, anything.
Okay,
It's like,
sure, yeah.
So fast forward through the last day there, I'm sitting behind the basket, just watching players warm up early. And he comes over, sits right next to me and says, hey, you know, great work this week. You know, awesome. You know, I just got one thing to ask you. When you after this next game, it was the North Carolina versus Alabama game, I would like to have a turkey sandwich. And I'm going to go back to my hotel room and I'm going to eat while I'm on my way to room and then nap and then come on back for the second game. It's like, okay, you know, well, it says, you might want to write this down. And seriously, I was like going through all my texts, trying to figure out what was the sandwich, couldn't find it, but I just know turkey sandwich, dry, it had to be certain ways,
specific
onions
exact
and
way,
stuff like
yeah.
that. So I get back, I timed it all up, I get back, and here is well, first of all, I had to go to Quiznos. He wanted
Yeah.
the Quiznos, and there's no Quiznos in Portland. So I'm like,
So you had to go to
okay,
Vancouver.
so
to get that.
Vancouver. And so I timed it all right. I'm going to get there right at pretty much a couple minutes left at the end of the game. Well, that game went into 3 overtime. So I'm like, oh, he's not going to have a fresh sandwich. Oh, man, you know, what's he going to do? After the game, he's like, hey, I got a problem. I'm not going to be able to go back to my hotel room. I don't have time. He says, is there a quiet place I could kick my feet up, take a nap? He says, I got you, Bill. So we were walking, this was Memorial Coliseum we were in at that point. We were walking to the to the Moda Center, and here's Calabro and Billis. We meet up in the hall, and we're just striking up a conversation. And I'm like, this is great. This is so surreal. You know, broadcasting is
Right.
my life. So it was so surreal, but we're walking to the Star Room. It's called the Star Room. It's somewhere, you know, quiet place for the anchors, you know, for anybody quiet. And he, alongside me, is like just talking about life, and I said, hey, by the way, you're my favorite all-time player. It's like, oh, really? It's like, yeah. It's like, yeah. I mean, it was Drexler for a little bit, but I'm like, Drexler never gave us a championship. So I was astounded by his generosity and this kindness towards me, and it's like this. It was amazing, just having this conversation with him about life. in
Right.
general. And so we're sitting in the Star Room, and he's eating his sandwich, and he's like, hey, I want you to go over into the arena and grab a basketball. I'm going to sign it for you. I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Why
you know,
not? Yeah.
I'm like, oh, okay. It's like, he said, oh, I'll go get the basketball. He says, oh, no, Bill, sit down, eat your sandwich. I got this. So I went to go get a basketball, brought it back, sat it right next to him while he's eating a sandwich. I said, well, have a good nap. I'll wake you up prior to the end of this next game so you'd be all ready to go. And I came back, and he handed me the basketball, and grab it. I got a picture of it too. And
So there's your
Take the top off, whatever. And,
autographed Bill Walton basketball.
and
I
it
mean,
says, "Thanks, Paul, for my loving, thanks, Paul, for my life. Bill Walton, Hall of Fame." I think you got a picture right there. And I looked at it and I'm like, "For my life." It's like, "What do you mean, Bill?" It's like, "Well, glad you asked." He said in 2008, he had spine problem and back surgery. He was in tremendous pain. He lost his job, lost his health insurance. He contemplated suicide. But what kept them going was the love that the fans gave him through the years and still do. And that's what kept them going.
I mean, that's a great Bill Walton story right there. Yeah, just the fact that
man, that was this.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I know there's people out there too that have other stories, you know, that having those moments, but you got to have one of those moments. And then, you know, I know on top of that, he sent you in some other stuff too, because you know, we've got like a couple of minutes left.
So fast forward. So he's saying, "Hey, give me your email address. I'm gonna send me your mailing address. I'll send you some stuff." I'm like, "Oh, wow. Well, you don't need to do that." It's like, "Hey, I want to do this for you." And he mailed me 50 pictures of him on Sports Illustrated or with certain players, all signed.
All signed and all from
And
one time.
like I said, basketball, you have a frame that's signed. You have just
yeah.
a book. If you want to bring up that book,
Yeah, I don't have the cover in here, but I've got the signed copy right there, you know, that he wrote to you. I mean, all that just from this interaction.
"Thank you, Paul, for your kindness, generosity, patience in my life." It's like,
I mean,
wow.
that's incredible.
I emailed him. I've emailed him from time to time, and I'm always, "Hey, how are you doing?" And he always, "I'm the luckiest man on earth." And you know when I think about this, no. We, the fans, are lucky to have him in our lives and be able to be inspired by him.
Yeah.
And I will always remember that part.
Well, Paul, thank you so much for sharing, you know, your memories of him and what you got to do there. I mean, that's so incredible to have that kind of interaction. And then for him to go out of his way and send all of these things, you know, like to take the time and then obviously still interact with you. And I mean, just what a guy. And you think about how many other people out there he's.
Yeah, just the time he had, just having a conversation with me was like great.
Yeah.
But all this other stuff,
amazing.
Wow.
Well, thank you. Thanks for just sharing some of that, you know, incredible. I don't want to mess with you, but I see your basketball right down here. Well, Bill Walton, and thank you everybody for joining us too. This is Fox 12 Now. You know, this is one of the things we get to do here where we can have some more extended segments. Thank you to Paul. Thanks, Casey, for joining, talking about this. And for everybody out there, I'm sure you have memories of Bill Walton as well. Feel free to share those. Casey was saying they don't know what they're going to do as far as the honoring yet, but I'm sure there's going to be something. And if anybody deserves a statue down there at the Moda Center, it's Bill Walton. Yeah. So we'll find out about that. But thanks for joining us again. This is Fox 12 Now. I appreciate you tuning into the show. We cover a wide range of segments here, so feel free to check all of those out at kptv.com or on the Fox 12 Oregon app. And we will talk to you soon with more. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.